what's up? First off, you guys don't really know the entirety of what we're doing, right?
No.
And these people don't know the entirety of who we are. So quick intros. My name is Vivi. I'm one of the youth leads at our Hunter Park campus.
I'm Dane Perzak. I'm the youth lead at our Palm Avenue campus.
And I'm Zach Krasansky. I'm the youth lead at our Anaheim campus.
Sweet. So now that we did that, let's do this. So I got 10 of the most asked questions to Christians.
Wow.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
And we're going to answer
And you're
them.
asking
No
it.
problem.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
going to be deep, but it's going to be fun.
Cool.
Question number 1 is for Dane Perzak.
Okay.
Here we go. Dane.
Let's go.
I know we said not to do this, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tell me why.
Moments
Moments before we started this recording,
Uh-huh.
I was FaceTiming you, and Taylor called you simultaneously. Actually, I was seconds
Oh,
before,
so
and you
this
didn't
is the
answer
question.
me.
Okay, whoa, hold up.
Just
hold
kidding,
up.
that's not the question. All right, we just get
But
into
I tried,
stuff. It's okay.
and then
It's
Taylor's
okay.
call
It's okay.
overrode your.
All right, question number 1. That was an easy one. Why is there evil in the world?
That's a good question.
It is a great question. Yeah, I think that it's like I'm not surprised. It's like the go-to for most people. But I think we, it's almost always paired with like a good God. Okay, if God's good, why is evil in the world? And I think a lot of times what we miss, even sometimes in church conversations, and I've seen this miss, is that like evil originates from man's choices, right? And so regardless of our intentions, brokenness exists in the world as a result of man's decisions, right? So God, he's sovereign, meaning like he has control over everything in the world. But when he created us, right, out of love, he created us with the ability to choose to love him and to live the way he designed us to.
Yeah.
But within that choice is the possibility to not, right? And so when you don't make the choice to live the way God has designed you to live, that's inviting, right? The antithesis, like the opposite of what God is and who he is.
Yeah.
And that's evil, right?
Yeah.
So
Easy.
yeah.
That's great.
Dane?
Boom.
Yeah. I'd say this is something I wrestled with a lot. I was like very like didn't like Christians at all. Thought like Christianity was stupid. Thought the Bible was stupid for most of my life up until I was like 21. It was like a big question that probably kept me from believing in God. I was thinking like, man, all these bad things are happening. Like how could if God's good, why isn't he doing anything about it?
Yeah.
Why is he just sitting around while all this is going on? You know what I mean? And I think like when you think like that, you kind of put yourself in the shoes of God, and you're down like this, like, well, if I was God, there wouldn't be like any genocide, there wouldn't be cancer, there wouldn't be murder, there wouldn't be all these things. It's like, yeah, if I was God, I would take all this away. And where does that leave you? It puts you right back in the Garden of Eden when those things weren't existent. And it's like, oh man, then what messed it up? People did.
Totally.
And people like to judge it. Well, it's like, well, that's not fair. I'm born into a sinful world because of Adam and Eve brought sin. I was there. That's not cool. When it's like, bro, if you're real with yourself, like, if I was in that garden, God would have caught me like baking a pie out of that fruit. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and then being like, what's the big deal, God? It's just fruit. And it's like trying to justify it instead of like hiding in shame or anything.
Making it pie. What's interesting about that question, and even when people are like, why do bad things happen? To me, I'm like, why is there good in the world?
Oh yeah.
Like, if we're all honest,
Yeah.
like,
You know your thought life.
yeah, like, how is there good in the world? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I even love, like, asking people that, like, don't go to church or don't believe in God, like, okay, so, like, why do you think there's evil in the world? Because that is the question, even before I, like, knew God, like, why? But I think that's good. Like, go back to Genesis, the garden, the very beginning. God's not the problem, we are.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, well, that was fun. What is my purpose in life?
Sorry, someone's asking a Christian what's my purpose in life. I believe as a Christian, our purpose in life is to glorify God and serve Him. But
Here's
What
a
does that
fun thought.
mean?
what does that
Glorify
mean?
God.
Well,
Let me think about
here's a
it.
fun
Here.
thought too,
Yeah.
because I'm like, so God is just after himself. He sounds like a narcissist.
Totally. That's kind of why I asked that. 'Cause
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Well, I think what's so cool about God, again, like you look at even just the 10 Commandments, you shall have no other gods before me. If God were to be okay with us worshiping, glorifying, pleasing other things outside of Him, He would be going against the very thing He told us. And what's interesting is our God is our creator. Like, again, I have to trust and believe that what He says, and He says, this is how I want you to live, I have to believe that that's good.
yeah.
And I think what I've found is, let's say all this is a lie. Like, let's say, like, Oh, it's fake. Let's say, joke's on you, Ashton
Just
Kutcher, I'm
Whoops.
getting punked, you know, whatever. Let's say all that.
Yeah.
I would still want to live my life the way I've lived because, like, I really do feel that I am fully fulfilled when I am fulfilling the life that God wants me to live. And that's, I think, how God created us. Like, we were meant and created to only be fully living and to, like, we were meant to be fully alive when we are glorifying. And glorifying meaning, like, everything I do, is it pleasing to God? And I mean, let's be real. In relationships, that's an easy question to answer. Is this pleasing to the person that I'm in a relationship with? Are they cool with me talking to another guy? Probably not. Are they cool with me, like, out and about doing my thing, looking like that? Probably not. And I think, like, we overcomplicate it. It's like, in a relationship with God, what does glorifying look like?
Yeah, and I think if God is the being that's giving you value and giving you, like, purpose and meaning, if anyone else other than him is being glorified, then your worth goes down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like, again, you talked about it, right? Like, in Trinity, that's probably the most beautiful way to describe the Trinity, is that God's a relational God and he creates in relationship. But when God creates us, right, and he says, your purpose is to glorify me, what he's saying is, like, I'm the one who, it's a cycle where I'm attributing you value, meaning, and worth, and then so
he's the subject, the object.
Yeah, but but he gives you the choice. You can glorify something, like, it's ultimately your choice. The thing is when we glorify something else other than the one who's attributing the meaning, you're devaluing yourself, right? Like, in a sense. So it just, to me, it's always made sense. Like, it's not that God's a narcissist, it's that he's like, no, this is a relational transaction where you glorify me because I'm worthy of it. And then in a sense, right, like, your value is based off of my glorification. Like, it's the same, right?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think it's funny when we put those, like, we usually, like, kind of judge God, I guess.
Totally.
He's such a narcissist.
Like a double standard.
Or I remember
That's
Oprah.
super narcissistic. Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey. She said she stopped believing in God when she found out, oh, God's a jealous God. Oh, God's jealous. Yikes. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's when I stopped believing in God. But yeah, it's like that thing, like, oh, have no other gods before me. It's like, God, why are you so jealous?
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, I imagine it's like, I mean, I don't have kids, but I imagine, like, I had a kid who, like, I provided everything for, like, oh, here's food and here's shelter. And then, like, one day I came in and they were like worshiping and thanking a stuffed animal. Like, thank you for my life.
Little beanie baby.
Yeah, and it's like,
It's feeding me.
it's a healthy jealousy where it's like, oh man, you're just wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, no, that's
like,
just
no. Like, that's not, it's coming from me. Like, this is a relationship here. And so, yeah, I think that's like, man, God's heart for us to be connected with us. It was like, man, we're like, when we veer off from our purpose of, glorifying and being in a relationship with Him, it's like, oh, no, that's a dead end. Like, that's not what I've created for you.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, I mean, that glorifying God, okay, well, what does that look like? I could take that in any way, shape, and form. Like, and I think what's interesting is even just that thought is the thought of loving and being fulfilled by something beyond us. You don't need to be a Christian to understand that. Like, I remember, gosh, when I was before I was a believer, I remember just the thought of, man, I opened the door for somebody and they said thank you. That felt nice. And it didn't even feel nice because I was like, oh, they noticed. I'm getting my credit, work credit. That wasn't it. It just felt good to do something nice for someone. Like, it just felt good. And there are so many things that, like, we think about. Like, I think Christmas being the most joyful time of the year, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's something to that. Like, it feels good to do things for other people. Imagine how much more when we posture beyond people, but God, the creator of people. Like, how much deeper, how much richer, how much fuller we will live in life.
Yeah.
Honestly, those, like, simple, like, human revelations are what made me curious about how much more. Like, how much more? Like, if this is what I think is good, how much more? You know, and the idea of glorifying God is not living for yourself. It's like, man, when I think about my sport, am I gonna be the best on the team? For what? Or am I gonna be, like, the top athlete, and why? Because, God created me this way, and so I want to do something with what He gave me. Or I want to be the best player on the team that's not a jerk to everyone else. Like, that's like thinking beyond myself, and it's in that way of thinking that, wow, the purpose of my life is to glorify God. And for whatever reason, I am, like, so fulfilled by that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know. It's just cool that you can take that question of how is this pleasing to God in anything.
Yeah.
When we're in our careers, like, how am I pleasing God by even this conversation? Like, how am I? And what's cool is the answer is I just feel so fulfilled. Like,
Yeah, that's great. Because I think, I know this is like in like the 10 questions, but I think it's like, I felt this way and a non-Christian feel this way. It's like, oh man, you need some God to tell you to do good. You know what I mean? Like, I do good things all the time. I don't need God to tell me to do it. And it's not really like that. It's like, man, I'm thankful that there is a God to tell us what is good. You know what I mean? I don't have to depend on other people to figure that out. So yeah.
That's a challenge probably for Christians, even when you hear like, okay, that question's kind of being asked, like, if your version of like, okay, I'm living to glorify God is showing up to church on Sundays and like just doing these really like routine
being a jerk
kind
outside of that.
Yeah, totally. No, but for real, like just living in these religious routines, man. I just feel like that's such a unfortunate, and that's probably the conclusion that a lot of non-Christians come to is like, well, no, like you feel like you're good because you think going to church makes you good, and it's like, man, I don't know if that's virtue. Like, it's that if like virtue to me, like something that's done good, no one's debating on whether or not this is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of the, and that's essentially that's the goodness God has called us to.
Yeah.
It's right. It's not just like a religious rhythm. You're doing this thing and that makes you good. No, it's because like if anything, I'm in these like religious rhythm, or I'm religious or in this rhythm of going to church as a result of the goodness I've seen done in my life that I feel like I have to pour out in every other aspect of my life. And then if it's not, dude, are we on the same page? Like, do we believe we're working out the same thing here?
Yeah.
So that's an honest question from the world, man, for Christians.
Well, yeah, I think it's like, it's one of those things like, is this what it looks like to be transformed by the Holy Spirit? Like, I'm not buying it. You know? Yeah, I think, it's tough. And also, like, with just, like, we're talking about, like, oh, yeah, God calls us to do good. It's like, well, all these Christians do bad things. Christians do bad things all the time.
Yeah.
There's evil Christian
Well,
people.
I mean, the power of the gospel wasn't just to redeem your calendar. It's to redeem your heart. You know?
Okay. Did
Like,
you just come up with that?
On the spot.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, you were talking about attendance.
I'm gonna write that down. That's great. Yeah.
That's good.
That's really good.
What I meant.
It's a natural preacher.
No, but what I mean is like, there are a bunch of people that think that going to church every single week, maybe having even all the verses memorized, is their purpose. And if that's it, honestly, you're demeaning the gospel. Because the gospel and what Jesus did on the Christ says that we can be different. Not just our calendars and our schedules, but everything about us. Like the way we think, the way we feel, how we see people, how we love people. Like when we are talking about the purpose in our life and glorifying God, it's not just with our schedules. It's with our lives, with our souls. And the most revealing thing about that is that there is this feeling of fulfillment. You know, like we were meant to do that, but we're also meant to be fulfilled by that. And there's no way around it, you know?
As a person who's been like involved in church for like most of my life, if all church was like what we're like, it's just on your calendar, man, I would have left church a long time ago. Because if it's just that, it's not convincing for as powerful as it's claiming to be, right? You know, like it's got to do something to the everyday rhythms of my life, or nothing. Like it's you know what I'm saying? Like it's there's no room for like this, you know, just again like a religious rhythm. It's gotta be, I've gotta be able to see change and people being changed. And my soul, my own person being changed, or else I wouldn't be in this.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed that conversation because we're real people that have also really struggled with some of those questions. And listen, I just want you guys to know that that's okay. The God that we worship, the God that we're trying to live for, He is a God that is real, and He is a God that isn't afraid of doubt and your doubt. Bring it to Him. And you know, Sandals Church, SCY, like we want to create a real place where you can be real about the real doubts and questions and fears and all the things that you have, because we believe that there's a real God that wants to be in a real relationship with you. and to see you in real relationship with other people. That's what we do here. That's what we're all about. And that is what we would love for you to take steps in wherever you're at. And just know there's a place for you in it, in conversations like these and in a place like this. Love you guys, and we'll see you next time.